Some time looking at the Chronicles of Narnia, and I drew out a few lines to live by. And this week we'll spend most of our time looking at another fictional work of Lewis's, his parable of heaven and hell, The Great Divorce. If you haven't read this book, which I suggest you do, it's not too long, I hope this talk will help to highlight one of the most significant themes running through it. And if you have read this book, right, you can tell me what you think about what I have to say about it. And maybe correct me. We'll see. I'm open to it. Now, I want to begin by reading a section from the preface to this work. This will give us a good grasp of what Lewis means to illustrate through the rest of the story. So this is what he writes. This is found in the preface. And by the way, this is the signature classic Lewis collection. Has, I think, 7 of his books. I think you can get on Amazon probably for $25-$30, but it's a wonderful collection. So it has Mere Christianity, Screw Tape Letters, Great Divorce, Problem of Pain, Miracles, Grief Observed, and The Abolition of Man. So get your money's worth. It's great. So this is from the preface of The Great Divorce. Lewis says, we are not living in a world where all roads are radii of a circle, and where all, if followed long enough, will therefore draw gradually nearer and finally meet at the center. Rather, right, we don't live in that world. Rather, we live in a world where every road, after a few miles, forks into 2, and each of those into 2 again, and at each fork you must make a decision. Even on the biological biological level, life is not like a pool, but like a tree. It does not move towards unity, but away from it. And the creatures grow further apart as they increase in perfection. Good, as it ripens, becomes continually more different, not only from evil, but also from other good. I do not think that all who choose wrong roads perish, but their rescue consists in being put back on the right road. Some can be put right, but only by going back till you find the error and working it afresh from that point, never by simply going on. Right? You make a mathematical error, you don't just keep going. Right? You have to go back. Evil can be undone, but it cannot develop into good. Time does not heal it. The spell must be unwound bit by bit, or else not. It is still either or. If we insist on keeping hell or even earth, we shall not see heaven. If we accept heaven, we shall not be able to retain even the smallest and most intimate souvenirs of hell. So what is Lewis getting at here? Well, he's saying that heaven and hell are divorced. Right? It's the great divorce. They are divorced. Every path does not lead to the same place. On every path, we are faced with decisions, and those decisions either draw us closer to the heavenly land, or they need to be repented of. You need to go back and redo the sum. You need to repent and get back onto the right path, right? You just don't keep following down that road. You cannot simply keep going on the wrong path and hope for the best, right? Hope that, it'll all work out well in the end. It'll all come out in the wash, right? That's not the world that we live in. What Lewis is saying is that what we have to, in the words of Christ, do is deny ourselves, pick up our cross, and follow after him. Otherwise, right, if we don't do that, if we don't deny ourselves, we just keep going down our path, then what the consequence is that we just become more and more hellish. A death has to happen to stop us, a crucifixion. And we must die to our past decision. But then after this death, all joy is offered to us. And that's something we're going to see over and over in the Great Divorce. All of heaven is offered to us. All of God himself, right, who is the very center of the glory of heaven, is offered to us. So this is Lewis's theology, so to speak, his theology underpinning the story that he tells through this book. It centers again on decisions, right? Decisions that either lead us deeper into hell or else toward the heavenly land. And in the course of his story, several characters, pretty much all of them, all of the ones in hell, they are faced with decisions, right? They are faced with decisions that they made back on earth. And then they are faced with these decisions, and they are pressed to repent of them, to reconsider them, and choose wisely. They face the question, right? Will they let go? Will they lay down a grudge? Will they lose themselves? Right? Will they forgive this person? Will they put down their manipulative tactics? Will they put down their petty complaints? will they lay down their grumbling, right? Or else will they just become a grumble? Will they do this and join the joy of heaven? Or, right, that's one choice. Or the other one is, will they dig their heels yet deeper? Will they double down on their decision and then just become more and more hellish, right? And really, in Lewis's parable, becoming more hellish means becoming more and more nothing, right? More and more empty, more and more of a void. So again, one of the main questions, if not the question, that these characters face is this: will you lose yourself? Right? Will you lose yourself? Will you die to what you cling to so desperately? Your idol, whatever that might be, whether your self-respect, your manipulative love, even your motherly affection in one instance. Will you lose yourself and come into the joy of true life? So these figures, and they're all ghost-like figures, their main issue is their obsession with one thing. They are monomaniacal, in other words. And that's why the title of the talk is The Hell of Monomania. They are obsessed with one thing, right? Mono, and that one thing ultimately orbits around me, right? So it orbits around me, myself, and their whole world is about their own self and clinging to it. Their own rights, their own love, their own victimhood even, their own projects, even their own reputation. And so they end up being incredibly petty. They are vindictive, they are manipulative and dramatic, and then grumbling all the time, right? Grumbling about everything. That's the first thing that hits you when you read this book, is that the ghosts are just constantly grumbling. But, right, in order to become more solid, in order to come out of their ghost-like existence, they need to learn to lift up their eyes and look around. They need to get over it. They need to get over themselves. They need to die and let go. And if they do, again, then all heaven is theirs. All heaven they are welcome to. So that is the overarching lesson that we find in the Great Divorce. Now I want to put some flesh on it, and I want to put some flesh on it by looking at a few of the instances, right, that Lewis has as he plays out this theme. Now, if you haven't read this book, and again it's pretty short, but by a show of hands, who has read this book? Okay, good. So I'm in good company, and the rest of you, go read it. Okay, so if you haven't read this, let me just give you the story in a nutshell. So about a bunch of these ghosts live in this gray, dreary, rainy hell. So basically Seattle, and they I think that's what Lewis was inspired by. And they take this bus, right, up to this higher land, and in the bus line, of course, most of them all drop out because of different complaints and quarrels. But those that do make it into the bus go up to this higher land, to the realm of heaven, a world which is unbearably solid, which is ironic, right? It's unbearably solid. They're too unsubstantial, these ghosts are, to even bend a blade of grass in this heavenly field. These ghosts are then met by family or friends or someone that they knew back on earth. They're met by various people, and these heavenly citizens sort of are given the task to urge them to stay, right? To urge them to stay, to come and lay down their egos, to come and enter deeper and deeper into the heavenly land, go to the mountains with them, right? They urge them to let go and become a citizen of this heavenly world. It's all open to you, right? You're welcome here. In fact, the bus driver says this as they disembark from the bus, that they can stay as long as they like. He says, you need never come back unless you want to, right? Stay as long as you please. So you would think this is good news, right? Wonderful. These ghosts coming up from hell they can stay as long as they please. No one's sending them home. But Lewis adds this after the bus driver's remark as a narrator. He says, there was an awkward pause. In other words, this was not greeted as good news. Like, there's not a time limit on this? You're not going to I can't have an excuse to leave? No, you can stay as long as you want. It's on you, right? If you want to come back, you can, but it's on you. It's your decision. So that's the summary of the story. Now, the first figure I want to look at is this well-dressed woman. Right, this well-dressed woman who refuses the glories of heaven. And why is that? Well, because she cannot let go. Right? She cannot lose herself. She cannot get her eyes off herself, in particular off her appearance. So this is, I'll read to you from the story, just a couple pages. Here it is. It says, a ghost hobbled across the clearing as quickly as it could on that uneasy soil. Looking over its shoulder as if it were pursued, I saw that it had been a woman, a well-dressed woman. I thought, but its shadows of finery looked ghastly in the morning light. It was making for the bushes. It could not really get in among them. The twigs and leaves were too hard, but it pressed as close up against it as it could. It seemed to believe it was hiding. A moment later, I heard the sound of feet, and one of the bright people came in sight. One always notices or noticed that sound there, for we ghosts make no noise when we walk, because they cannot bend the grass. Go away, squealed the ghost. Go away. Can't you see that I want to be alone? But you need help, said the solid one. If you have the least trace of decent feeling left, said the ghost, you'll keep away. I don't want help. I want to be left alone. Do go away. You know I can't walk fast enough on these horrible spikes to get away from you. It's abominable of you to take advantage. Oh, that, said the spirit. That'll soon come right, but you're going in the wrong direction. It's back there to the mountains you need to go. You can lean on me all the way. I can't absolutely carry you, but you need have almost no weight on your own feet, and it will hurt less at every step. I'm not being afraid of being hurt. You know that. Then what is the matter? Can't you understand anything? Do you really suppose I'm going out there among those people like this? But why not? I'd never have come out at all if I'd known you were all going to be dressed like that. Friend, you see, I'm not dressed at all. I didn't mean that. Do go away. But can't you even tell me? If you can't understand, there'd be no good trying to explain it. How can I go like this among a lot of people with real, solid bodies? It's far worse than going out with nothing on would have been on earth. Have everyone staring through me. Oh, I see. But we were all a bit ghostly when we first arrived. You know, that'll wear off. Just come out and try. But they'll see me. And what does it matter if they do? I'd rather die. But you've died already. There's no good trying to go back to that. The ghost made a sound something between a sob and a snarl. I wish I'd never been born, it said. What are we born for? For infinite happiness, said the spirit. You can step out into it at any moment. But I tell you, they'll see me. An hour hence, and you will not care. A day hence, and you will laugh at it. Don't you remember on earth, there were things too hot to touch with your finger, but you could drink them all right. Shame is like that. If you will accept it, if you will drink down the cup to the bottom, you will find it very nourishing. But try to do anything else with it, and it scalds. You really mean? Said the ghost, and then paused. My suspense was strained up to the height. I felt my own destiny hung on her reply. I could have fallen at her feet and begged her to yield. Yes, said the spirit, come and try. Almost I thought the ghost had obeyed. Certainly it had moved. But suddenly it cried out, no, I can't. I tell you, I can't. For a moment while you were talking, I almost thought, but then it comes to the point. You've no right to ask me to do a thing like that. It's disgusting. I should never forgive myself if I did. Never, never. And it's not fair. They ought to have warned us. I'd never have come. And now, please, please, go away. Friend, said the spirit, could you only for a moment fix your mind on something not yourself? I've already given you my answer, the ghost said coldly, but still tearful. So there's the first story, right? You have this woman who is well-dressed, likely a beautiful woman back on earth, but now, because she has been so long obsessed with herself, she's now transparent, right? She's insubstantial. She's become a ghost, and in comparison to the world around her, right, she's nothing. She's see-through, but she's still invited into it all, invited to stay in the heavenly land, but she cannot bear the cost. The cost, which is what? It's humiliation. It's the shame of being not stared at, but stared through. She remarks like Job, I wish I'd never been born. Right? And then rhetorically, what are we born for? Which is a bit humorous, because then the bright one answers her, right? For infinite happiness. Right? You were born for infinite happiness, and you can step into that, right, at any moment. It's just your decision. You can do that. You can take that step. She just has to lose herself in that main line. Could you, but for one moment, fix your mind on something not yourself? Right, that's the solid person's response. But she recoils from the thought. She wants it, but what keeps her from that? Right, it's shame. If she would just accept her shameful appearance and drink the cup down to the bottom, then it would be all life, and she would become solid. She would have exactly what she desired. Right, she would be solid and glorious, even as the Spirit replied, we're all a bit ghostly like you. right? It took us some time to be put on substance, right? You're not in any different state than we began, but this is all just too much for her, right? She cannot leave it. She chose a long time ago to care more about herself and her own appearance than the world about her, than those about her. And this is, of course, the sin of vanity, right? Here she is brought again back to that decision, back to that fork in the road, and given an opportunity to make a better choice, right? To put the sum right, to unwind the spell of shame by not fleeing from it, but instead by dying to it, by entering into it, by swallowing it down to the bottom. But instead, she steps further down that road, away from the mountains, away from the joy that is offered to her. And as a result, she steps deeper into hell. Right? She becomes more and more nothing. And actually, we don't really know what happens to her. The story doesn't end with she could very well have repented. Lewis indicates that there was actually some hope, maybe. In fact, a stampede of unicorns comes crashing into the scene. Now, for those of you who have read that, or maybe if you haven't, what do you suppose that was for? Right? What is this stampede of unicorns that came through, and the Spirit summoned these unicorns? Why would these unicorns come through? Yeah, Christopher?
Scare her into thinking about something other than...
Yes, yeah. Just that for one shot, for a moment, forgetting yourself. And the sheer terror, right? The sheer terror of these unicorns, or maybe just the majesty of them, maybe just for one moment you'd get your mind on something else. You forget your appearance, and then you say, oh, that wasn't too bad. Right? Maybe I can actually keep going. I can forget about myself, and I can see the world about me and begin to have substance once again. So that's the first character. The next character, or characters I'll mention two, since they fall into the same category. The next characters I want to mention are an artist and a survivalist. Right? An artist and a survivalist. Both of these men had been famous in their time on Earth. The survivalist, Sir Archibald. Now, I don't know if Lewis name-dropped someone in this, with pointing a finger at someone, or if he made up the character, but this guy's name is Sir Archibald, they had called him, and he had written a whole shelf full of books on survival, right? He gave himself to researching it, and it became his sole occupation, his project, his only project, his life goal, even his reason for existence. And so we're told that he experimented, he lectured, he ran a magazine, he traveled. He digged out stories among the Tibetan lamas, and was even initiated into brotherhoods in Central Africa. Right? So there's just a long list of this man's accomplishments and all that he has done in this subject of survival. Lewis wrote that it drove him mad if he saw anyone taking an interest in anything else. Right? You must devote all of your life to surviving like me. So here's this guy, right? The top of his field, a great success, and probably very helpful to many with his research. A bit of a madman about it, a monomaniac. Now, how does his story goes after he dies? Right? After he fails finally, at last, to survive, whether old age or whatever it might be. Well, this is what Lewis's narrator tells us. He says, "This country, heaven, was no use to him at all. Everyone here has survived already. Nobody took the least interest in the question. There was nothing more to prove. His occupation was clean gone. Of course, if he would only have admitted that he'd mistaken the means for the end and had a good laugh at himself, he could have begun all over again like a child and entered into joy. But he would not do that. Right? He cared nothing about joy, and in the end, he went away." A lot of irony in that, right? He became so obsessed with survival, with how to live in the harshest conditions, with how to live without clean water, how to survive the cold, how to journey through a desert, and so on and so forth, that he gave himself over to the means to life while neglecting the actual life, right? The actual goal that he had, right? Life with water, life with perfect weather, life in an oasis, right? When life itself was before him, he did not know what to do. Right? He didn't know what to do. In this case, the means became his end, and he obsessed about it. And we hear it in our day, sort of the journey is the goal. Right? Forget about the destination. That doesn't matter. It's all about the journey. Well, this guy, right, he was all about survival. It doesn't matter about the life that you're survived to live, just surviving. Right? The actual goal of his life's work now didn't interest him. It's like the cook right? A cook who became so obsessed with baking and sautéing and grilling that he did not care to eat any of it, right? Became so obsessed with the actual means to it that he doesn't want to sit down and enjoy food. But that's the goal of it, to enjoy a wonderful feast. But if he had just taken himself lightly, right, have a good laugh at himself, lose his project and his reputation, and his own narrow reason for existence, what does Lewis say? Well, he could have entered into all of life, right? He could have entered into what he had been, really working for in his project his entire life. But he couldn't. He couldn't give himself up, and so in the end, we're told that he went away. So the artist, that's the survivalist. The artist is similar but different to him. This ghost is a famous artist, or he was. He comes up from hell and sees the beauty and the grandeur of the heavenly landscape, and immediately, what does he say? Right? What does he say? Well, he said, "I must paint this." Right? I must paint this. Now, Lewis has no issue with painting. It's a fine desire, but the heavenly spirit, who also apparently was an artist, he knows what is going on here, and there's something insidious in this desire to paint, right, that had consumed this artist. So let me read to you from this story. And this is the ghost speaking first. He says, "I meant, well, all this. I should like to paint this," in reference to the landscape. I shouldn't bother about that just at present if I were you," said the spirit. "Look here. Isn't one going to be allowed to go on painting?" "Well, looking comes first," says the spirit. "But I've had my look. I've seen just what I want to do. God, I wish I thought of bringing my stuff with me, or my things with me." The spirit shook his head, scattering light from his hair as he did so. "That sort of thing's no good here," he said. "What do you mean?" said the ghost. "When you paint on earth, at least in your earlier days, it was because you caught glimpses of heaven in the earthly landscape. The success of your painting was that it enabled others to see the glimpses too. But here you are having the thing itself. It is from here that the messages came," right, from the heavenly landscape. "There is no good telling us about this country, for we see it already. In fact, we see it better than you do. Then there's never going to be any point in painting here? I don't say that. When you've grown into a person, right, it's all right. We all had to do it. There'll be some things which you'll see better than anyone else. One of the things you'll want to do will be to tell us about them, but not yet. At present, your business is to see. Come and see. He is endless. Come and feed." There was a little pause. "That will be delightful," said the ghost presently in a rather dull voice. "Come then," said the spirit, offering his arm. "How soon do you think I could begin painting?" it asked. The spirit broke into laughter. "Don't you see, you'll never paint at all if that's what you're always thinking about," he said. "What do you mean?" asked the ghost. "Why, if you are interested in the country only for the sake of painting it, you'll never learn to see the country." "But that's just how a real artist is interested in the country." "No, you're forgetting," said the spirit. "That was not how you began. Light itself was your first love. You loved paint only as a means of telling about the light." "Oh, that's ages ago," said the ghost. "One grows out of that. Of course, you haven't seen my later works. One becomes more and more interested in paint for its own sake." "One does indeed. I also have had to recover from that. It was all a snare. Ink and paint were necessary down there, but they are also dangerous stimulants. Every poet and musician and artist, but for grace, is drawn away from love of the thing he tells to love of the telling, till down in deep hell they cannot be interested in God at all, but only in what they say about him. For it doesn't stop at being interested in paint, They sink lower, become interested in their own personalities, and then in nothing but their own reputations." "Oh, I don't think I'm much troubled in that way," said the ghost stiffly. "That's excellent," said the spirit. "Not many of us had quite gotten over it when we arrived. But if there is any of that inflammation left, it will be cured when you come to the fountain." "What fountain's that?" "It is up there in the mountain," said the spirit, "very cold and clear between the two hills, a little like Lethe. When you have drunk of it, you forget forever the proprietorship in your own works. You enjoy them just as if they were someone else's, without pride, and without modesty. So that is, it keeps going, but I'll stop there. So the artist, this artist ghost, as you can see, his desire is to paint, right? It is not actually about the beauty. It's not actually of the glory that he sees just streaming and filling the whole entire landscape that he's looking at. It's not about the light, which was his first love, as Lewis kind of prepares for that comment. The spirit shakes its head and light, flings out, and so he'd become light. And that was your first love, and you don't even care about that anymore. All he cares about is his painting now. And he has this line, the Spirit says, every poet and musician and artist is drawn away from the love of the thing he tells to the love of telling until they're only interested in what they say about him, right? Only interested in what they say about God and no longer interested in God himself. So he became obsessed with the telling with his own painting that he lost any love for the object that inspired it in the first place. As the episode goes on, Lewis also shows that this artist, in fact, was concerned about his reputation. And here he tries to brush it off. Oh, I don't suffer from that. And, well, it turns out he does. Especially when he has that comment about the water, the fountain. Well, great, this fountain will just allow you to forget about who painted what and just get to appreciate, right, and love everything, no matter if you made it or if someone else made it, right, without modesty and without pride. This artist ends up departing with a desperate attempt to recover his waning reputation on earth. So he rushes back to hell in order to recover his reputation on earth. So again, like the survivalist, this once famous artist with the very glory that had first inspired him before his eyes, the very beauty that even just a glimpse of through the lens of, or through the landscape of earth that inspired his painting in the first place, he now cared nothing for it because he had become obsessed with his own speaking about it, his own telling about it, with his own portrayal of it. He lost his first love and became obsessed with himself, with his own painting, and then ultimately, right, with his own reputation, with his own name among other artists. So those are just three stories, but The Great Divorce is full of stories like these. There's also mention of men who are so interested in apologetics, about proving the existence of God that they came to care nothing about God himself. Right, a lot of irony in that. Some that were so occupied with spreading Christianity that they never gave a thought to Christ. Right, and then you're in heaven, and, well, everyone's Christian here. You can lay it down. No, I must tell you, Christ is right there, though. There's also a lover of books who lost all power to be able to read books, right? So there's a character also who rejects the joy of heaven because he sees himself as a victim, right? Who sees himself as a victim, as defrauded of his own rights. He doesn't get his rights, as he says, and in the instance, the acquaintance from earth who's talking to him was a murderer. Right? He had murdered another coworker, and this murderer gets to enjoy the joy of heaven, and meanwhile his boss, who is the ghost, doesn't. And why is that? Well, because he's fixated on his rights, right? His own self-righteousness, and he cannot receive the same grace by which this murderer entered into the glories of heaven, right? The humbling experience that this man, having murdered a coworker and humbled to the ground, and that brought him to Christ, and yet his boss, who didn't murder anybody, right, could not humble himself. He wanted his rights, and the Spirit said, "Well, that's not how it works here. If you want your rights, you got to go back down to hell." And there's another figure, Pam. I've mentioned her before, I think in a sermon or exhortation, but she's a mother who loves her son, right? Loves her son, but whose love for her son becomes her entire existence. It becomes a problem, in this case, of disordered love, and really all these are disordered loves. She wants nothing but to see him, right? To see Michael, which is his name, to have him back. But in order for that to happen, she must first lose him, right? She must first learn to love God first, whose creature her son is. She has to die to herself, and if she will, then she gets him back in return, right? She gets him back in all things in return. So through all of these stories, Lewis teaches the lesson of the cross, right? Over and over and over again. For as Christ said, the first step of discipleship is denying yourself, picking up your cross, and following him. And that's what Lewis is laying out. We often think of this denying of ourself, this dying to ourself as involving dying to something that is very clearly evil, right? Very almost inherently evil, as something obviously sinful. And of course, we must die to those things, right? We're certainly called to put those things to get to death. And in fact, the one ghost who ironically does end up staying, that does end up entering into the joys of heaven, he is the one who denies the base sin of lust, right? It's the guy with the lizard on his shoulder. He's the only one that sticks around, and he is the one that's, very clearly, here's lust. It's all over Scripture, railed against, but he's the one that ends up mortifying it, and he gets to enter into the joy of heaven. And in some ways, that's the easy one, right? That's the obvious one. It's all the other stuff, right? It's the vices that parade themselves as virtues, that we heartily believe are virtues. These are much more harder to kill. These are much more harder to deny. We feel ourselves moral, right, and righteous by holding them. It is much harder for us to die to our virtues, to die to what we think are our best qualities, right? Whether it be the survivalist, right, who is at the very top of his game in that, or the well-dressed, respectable woman to her vanity, or the famous artist to his, he had a name. He certainly had a reputation on earth, right? He was good at his trade. He couldn't die to it. The mother who loves her son, right? Who would deny that motherly affection is good? The apologist who's defending the very existence of God, of course that's a good thing, and yet he couldn't die to it. Now, so these things are not ordinarily thought of as vices, and yet, right, if they don't die in Christ, if we can't let them go for the love of Jesus, they are vices that turn our hearts away from the joy that is found in his presence. They are the things that would sink us to hell. So I want to end with this short quote coming toward the end of his book. He says, I think this is after the story with Pam and the motherly affection. The narrator says, every natural love will rise again and live forever in this country, in the heavenly country, but none will rise again until it has been buried, right? Our loves must die, right? Whether it be a love that looks like lust, love that looks like motherly love for painting, or whatever it might be, every natural love will rise again and live forever in the heavenly country, but it must first be buried. It must first go the way of Christ. It must first be crucified with him, but then following that is resurrection. Right? So it is an Easter faith that Lewis is underlying all of this. So that is the one main lesson that I drew out of the Great Divorce, and that's what I have for you this evening.